I've always been a fiercely independent person when it came to school. By the age of 4, on my way to pre-K, I was talking my parents' ears off about how many friends I would make, books I would read, and things I would learn. So after 12 years of excelling at school, when my college move-in day rolled around, my parents helped me unpack, took me to lunch, and dropped me off with a quick hug. They knew I would be in good hands, my own hands. What they didn't know was that it would be a few more hours before my college roommate would arrive. And so I was left entirely alone in a new place that would be my home for the next few years. That day, rather than staying in my dorm and decorating, I made the audacious decision to leave the confines and safety of my soon-to-be triple room to find friends. For the next few hours, I approached every door on my floor and would either knock or awkwardly wave at the parents reconfiguring their children's dorm layout until someone noticed me. Quick conversations, none more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes each. But by the end of the day, I had over 40 people I could recognize at our floor meetings and subsequent orientation events. I wondered how many of these acquaintances would be new friends, best friends who I would spend my college years getting to know. The answer? None of them. What they don't tell you when you get to college is how hard it is to sustain relationships when you are constantly focused on success, on achieving this greatness that you always knew you would find in your early adulthood. What they don't tell you when you're preparing for your 4-year university is that burnout comes quick. It comes even quicker for those without the clear picture of what they're getting into from the day they submit their admissions deposit. In line with the theme of our TEDx event, the diamond in the rough we see most often here on campus is the first-generation college student, the one who got this far, likely on their own, who is constantly sanded down by the change from their hometown to a predominantly rich institution like Tulane. One home to students with privileges the first gen may have never even imagined before coming here. And it can be hard to see others living a life seemingly without worry, while first gens are busy contemplating the debt they've accumulated from pursuing higher education, turning down invites to reservation-recommended restaurants, and knowing that applying or rushing for Greek life would never be financially feasible. So where does this divide begin? Is it the day the first gen arrives at school and first lives amidst their new college-savvy peers? Or is it earlier than then, when the first gen first hears about college or possibilities to fund it or how to write a good application essay years behind the others? Is it when one realizes their experiences are entirely foreign to the majority of the people around them? Or is it when they realize their acquaintances remain only that out of fear of overspending, showing their cards, or taking their eye off the end goal? Before ever earning a university acceptance letter, the first-generation college student encounters their unfair share of burdens. If they don't make certain standardized test scores by a certain grade, they are excluded from honors classes or placed in remedial ones, with little hope of catching up again in an underfunded public school system. Even those who do catch up often aren't encouraged to reach that similar standard of excellence as their honors peers. Add on the additional burden of being FGLI or first-gen low income, and even more equity issues come to light. Think after-school activities could be remaining inaccessible due to a lack of transportation. They don't have a car or a caretaker who can take off work to bring them to and from sports games or club meetings. And considering that admittance to competitive colleges is contingent on having this well-loved, well-rounded resume, it can be difficult for an FGLI to seem as worthy of a spot as someone who didn't spend all of their time working at a part-time job. In combating the challenges of first-gen or low-income students, it's also important to note the added hurdles of BIPOC students who experience racism and discrimination throughout their education process. And the racial equity issues add another layer of complexity in examining which students receive support and which are left behind. It is also important to note the difference between schools with or without adequate funding. Leadership seminars that many consider vital to later success are reserved for the select few, the cream of the crop, those who have already succeeded enough to be noticed by school officials and likely don't need the added encouragement as much as other students might. Schools with limited funding to begin with are less likely to offer arts curriculum and thus fail to arm students with the tools they need to express themselves. First-generation college students from states ranked poorly for education also are largely disadvantaged because they have a lack of funding and they have less access to AP courses and other college prep. And it is important to notice that these are a bunch of nationwide issues, and they will require sweeping policy changes. But since policy is a slow-moving, long-term goal, we also need to focus on other remedies to the inequitable distribution of resources, opportunities, and encouragement given to students of different backgrounds. In other words, is there even a relief from the anxiety-inducing tactics of the higher education industry? And it is here that I emphasize the need for instilling a sense of possibility in all kids. Those who went to an under-resourced high school, those who would be the first in their family to attend college, and especially those students who are marginalized. Simply stated, all students need more access to information about college at a much younger age. All students deserve to know their options and to be prepared for college with challenging material. All students deserve to make an informed choice and to have the academic excellence required if they desire being accepted to a university. So if we're thinking private schools, college prep institutions, telling their students that college is the primary goal, if that's true, low-income public schools are sending other messages, messages that limit their students' ideas of their own futures. And working to stop all of this awful messaging isn't the end of it. Once we work to fix the policies and bring justice to the broken education system, we then must focus on those students who have made it through, but now have no idea how to access the resources they need or how to balance their new work, social, and academic lives that they've gotten to. I was once embarrassed of my socioeconomic status, the rural town I was from, that I had no idea what I was doing. I was too scared to ask for help when I needed it. And it is here that institutions should be stepping in and providing a sense of belonging for those students. Many universities have worked to create centers such as multicultural offices that serve marginalized populations and promote community building with academic or non-academic programming. And the aim of these is really to connect students of different identities or those with similar identities, and also sometimes may provide some extra scholarships or research programs. But these programs, these centers alone, cannot solve the problem completely. In a school like Tulane, where we have a culture focused on competition rather than collaboration, it can be difficult to break down those barriers of forming meaningful relationships with peers. So in other words, there is an absence here in those students who work too hard but forget to play. And what's missing is a sense of belonging. And without it, college students, especially first gens, run straight into academic burnout. Without a sense of community to fall back on, students are more likely to consider leaving their university or dropping out before ever becoming a first-generation college graduate. But there is more that can be done in between providing these resources to at-risk students and their graduation date. Extracurriculars are often pushed for the sake of polishing up a resume, gaining professional experience, or networking. Why not also emphasize the goal of making friends with like-minded peers? Why is joining an intramural sports team seen as a waste of time compared to joining a professional business fraternity? Why is the perfect college career one that only includes those activities that help us get ahead? In order to cultivate a sense of belonging, students need to be explicitly told that academic achievement should not be their primary goal. After instilling the sense of possibility, students need to be told that our rest time is just as important, that we need to make room for ourselves in our own lives, that we need the space to give ourselves grace, to laugh, to make friends, to be ourselves without fear of running out of time or falling one internship short of success. Had I been equipped with the tools to create that sense of community around me and not see my peers as purely my competition, I could have cultivated a sense of self based on more than just my accomplishments. Had Tulane or my high school given me the tools to step away from my computer and live my life, I wouldn't have been so afraid of talking about my gaps in knowledge. And thinking back, it is my identity as a first-generation college student, one who was dropped off on campus and expected to simply know the way, that kept me from reaching my fullest potential as a happy 20-something. But personal growth comes when first gen turns from a dirty, painful word into one of refuge and pride. The day the first gen accomplishes what their parents and grandparents never could and makes the entire community proud. It's a journey to get there, and it's not always a positive experience to be first. I often wonder how much of my own life I let pass me by simply because I was so scared I wouldn't succeed. How many times did I place an assignment due 2 days later over hanging out with friends who had the courtesy to invite me? How many of my acquaintances who wave out of habit as we pass in the halls could have been daily constants in my life? How quickly was I applying and learning and speaking and writing to achieve the resume I thought was necessary to propel my future career? One I couldn't fathom having without doing everything in my power to look good on paper. Where was this endless pressure coming from? If not my family, who saw me as the one to finally break this college barrier. If not my incredibly successful peers at my university. If not all the loud and proud belief that all my former teachers had in me. So yeah, you can imagine I became pretty overwhelmed. Looking back with better understanding, I find it helpful to use somewhat of an amateur metaphor, comparing myself to a peanut butter sandwich, and just to make things less complicated, throw out the jelly. Jelly's not involved. But try to imagine with me. One slice of bread is your family and your social life. The other is your work and academic obligations. You are the peanut butter, the thing sticking all of these wonderful but time-consuming entities together without letting one drift too far away. Cut your slices too thick, and you're left with a stuck-at-the-roof-of-mouth situation. So if you are the glue that holds your life together and you're spread too thin, what fun or relief is possible? What I failed to realize in my early college years was that I was lacking that sense of possibility, that sense of belonging. I was missing an entire slice of bread, and I was miserable. What I wish someone had told me was to make use of the time with my friends in college. And I was raised with that sense of possibility. My parents instilled that in me. I never questioned my academic abilities, and I always strived for success. But what no one thought to tell me was that my happiness was just as important. And without the entire sandwich, I never really developed a sense of self in a way that I would have liked to. Fear of failure is the burden that first-generation college students carry each day. And they deserve to know the connection between possibility and belonging and how to cultivate it. Now, I know that both are necessary. First, a sense of possibility to get us out of our situations. Then, a sense of belonging to show us it was worth working for. If you have both a sense of possibility and a sense of belonging, you have the security and the freedom to grow your sense of self, to develop your confidence, to believe that your priorities can extend beyond just your grades. It's not enough to throw a college student into the school and say, they'll figure it out. It's not enough to feel like you belong, but also feel incapable of accomplishing your dreams. Most importantly, what I wish someone had told me more than anything was to just have fun. That my worth was not determined by the work I do, my extracurriculars, my 2 on-campus jobs, my summer internship here, exec board position there, that being selected to lead a TED Talk might be impressive, but ultimately, I am so much more than the sum of my accomplishments. That there is value in investing time and energy and love into the people around me, that I would be better off for it. That by the time I reach graduation, my regret would be not spending enough time rejoicing and celebrating instead of anxiously searching for the next opportunity, convinced that if I didn't seek them out, they would disappear. First-generation college students deserve the head start, the transparent warnings, the encouragement, the institutionally cultivated sense of belonging, and the tools for success more than anyone else. And it is our job as onlookers, peers, parents, university faculty, receivers of education, that we all participate in that call for action. So tonight, go home and tell the people in your life that you're proud of them for something random, for going to bed an hour early, making plans with friends, and for finally applying to that intimidating internship. And don't stop until they believe you. Thank you.